He's ready. Okay. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. It's good to see everybody here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We ask that the brothers uncover your heads, sisters please cover your heads as we stand up, face Jerusalem, and open up in prayer.
Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
On earth, as it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Forgive us our debts.
And forgive us our debts.
We forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation.
But deliver us from evil.
But deliver us from evil.
Thine is the kingdom.
Thine is the kingdom.
And the power.
And the power.
And the glory.
And the glory. Forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
And he is good.
And he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures
These
forever.
things we pray in Jesus' name.
These things we pray in Jesus'
The Holy
name.
One of Israel.
The Holy One of
The
Israel.
Mighty One of Jacob.
The Mighty One of Jacob.
The Lord of Lords.
The Lord of Lords.
The King of Kings.
And the King of Kings.
Amen. Today's scripture reading will be taken from the 62nd chapter of Isaiah. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, till the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory. And thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. Thou shalt be no more termed forsaken, neither shall thy land anymore be termed desolate. But thou shalt be called Heshbon, and thy land Beulah, for the Lord delighted in thee, and thy land shall be married. For as a young man married a virgin, so shall thy sons marry thee. And as a bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall thy God rejoice over thee. I've set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold thy peace day nor night. He that make mention of the Lord, keep not silent, and give him no rest, till he establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. I read unto you Isaiah chapter 62, verses 1 through 7. May the Lord have the blessings of the reading of his word in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All praise, all glory, all honor most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to each and every one of you. In the name of Jesus, I count it truly a blessing each and every time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. And never, ever do I count it as a light thing to do so. The title of today's lesson is, I know the blasphemy of them who say they are Jews and are not. Again, that title is, I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews and are not. This lesson will deal with the biggest secret, open secret, there is, and that is that the people who call themselves Jews are not. But if you say that today, you have done something, it's almost like you've committed a crime. The question we should ask ourselves is, what is a Jew? Because if you listen to the people who call themselves Jews today, they say a Jew is somebody who practices Judaism. That is not accurate. You don't find Judaism per se in the scriptures. To be a Jew, you can be one two ways. To be a Jew meant you were simply from the tribe of Judah. Even the term Jew is new. They were called Judeans. Okay? Even when you look at the second type, it's if you were living in the southern kingdom. Like Paul, in a general sense, refers to himself as a Jew, but in actuality, he was from the tribe of Benjamin. So when people talk about they are Jews and who the Jews are, it's clouded and confusion, so people don't know what's going on. And so that's how you can have some people that are now claiming to be the Jew, who biblically and historically could not possibly be the Jew. Identity, brothers and sisters, is imperative. It is important. The lack of understanding of who we are is at the root of our problems. Because once you know who you are, you know your lineage, you know what your people, the accomplishments they made, you know the mistakes that they made, and you know where you should be going. But if you don't know who you are, another people can tell you who you are, and that's what's just happened to us. We're Negroes, colored, black, African American, subhuman, prone to criminality, hypersexual. We're all these things, whatever other people tell us, when in actuality, we are people of the book. Again, identity or the lack thereof is at the root of our problem. And what we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to look at what we call Esau. Because Esau is the one who's perpetuating the biggest fraud known to man, saying that he is the Jew. So we're going to look at how these two nations came out of one. We're going to look at the two separate paths they went on. We're going to look at the contention that they had between each other. And we're going to look at how one took the identity of the other. Again, the title is, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. Again, it's not like back in the old days. Was the Homestead Act when these Europeans, to get some land, claimed that they were natives. They called them $5 Indians. It's something different. You have committed blasphemy because you are saying that you are the people that God chose. And God did not choose them. Now we're going to look at this. Again, the title is, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. We're going to pick it up in the beginning. Genesis 25 and verse 19. Because here we see the birth of two nations. Two nations out of one. This is Genesis 25 and verse 19. When you're ready, go ahead.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac.
Go ahead.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian.
Go ahead.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
So now you have Isaac. This is Abraham's son. You have Isaac, son of promise, and he takes a wife, Rebekah, and she's barren. So he prays to God, and then she conceives. Go ahead, verse 22.
And the children struggled together within her.
So she has two. She has twins, and it said, and the children struggled within her womb. And she said, what?
And she said, if it be so, why am I thus?
Go ahead.
And she went to inquire of the Lord.
So this is the blessing, but why is this? Why is there such contention? See, between these two, between Jacob and Esau, there has been contention even from the womb. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto her,
go ahead.
Two nations are in thy womb.
Two different nations are in thy womb. Go ahead.
And two manner of people shall be separated from thy body. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
Go ahead.
The elder shall serve the younger.
And we're going to see that. How these two came out, and it says one's going to be stronger than the other. And then it says, the elder shall serve the younger. We're going to see that as well. Verse 24.
And when her days to be delivered with her fig.
Go ahead.
Behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red and all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
Okay, so we should understand that obviously Israel is a black people. Okay? The Bible tells us that. Archaeology tells us that. History tells us that. But out of this one, it says, this first one that came out, Rebecca said the first came out red, all over like in hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So that's one thing about black people, even though we're talking about Semitic people, black people have much, a great deal of diversity. Okay? You can get from the darkest hue all the way up to the lightest color there is amongst people. Even what they call albinism or an albino. But go ahead.
And after that came his brother Isaac. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
Go ahead.
And his name was called Jacob.
Go ahead.
And Isaac was 3 years old when she bare him.
So when you look at it, it says Esau came out first and then Jacob came out. I just want to show you a couple pictures of what Esau may have looked like, or as far as his hue. You see the diversity there? He came out all red. And you know, Jacob would look like the average brother. But you see, these are all people who would be considered people of color, but they also were red. Let's go. Where we at? Verse
27.
Verse 27. When you ready, go ahead.
And the boys grew.
Uh-huh.
Esau was a cunning hunter,
Uh-huh.
a man of the field.
So Esau was a cunning hunter. What about Jacob?
And Jacob was a plain man,
Uh-huh.
intent.
Jacob was plain, but go ahead.
And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob.
So now Isaac had a favorite, and his favorite was Esau. But Rebekah, who had inquired of the Lord about her child, she loved Jacob. Go ahead.
And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint.
So now Esau's coming from the field. He's tired. Verse 30.
And Esau said to Jacob,
Uh-huh.
Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, I'm faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
Okay, so he's called red. He said, hey, Jacob, feed me, I pray thee. I'm tired with that same red pottage. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob's not going to give it to him for free. What did he require?
And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright.
He said, sell me this day thy birthright. So it's not like he just asked this question. That's not something you would just ask of somebody, right? Oh, it's like if they ask you for some soup, for some food, you say, oh, you want some food? Give me everything you have. It's not, he didn't ask him because he was trying to get something that he held in high value. He understood, or it seemed that he understood, that Esau didn't really value his birthright. Otherwise, why would you ask somebody that? So it says, and Jacob says, sell me this day thy birthright. Verse 32.
And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die.
You ain't gonna die. You hungry, you ain't starving. It said, Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what?
And what profit shall this birthright do to me?
See, he despised his birthright. Go ahead.
And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore to him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
So at that point, once he makes the transaction, once he gives him that pottage, he just sold his birthright. He sealed the deal. He just sold it. Go ahead.
Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils.
Take some bread too. Go ahead.
And he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
See, that's Esau despised his birthright, and the birthright is what the Lord put in place. The firstborn son has the birthright, and he despised it. He is no longer the firstborn son in that regard. But verse 27, because we want to find out what happened between these two brothers. And see, Rebekah knew from the beginning because she inquired of the Lord. So she knew what was supposed to happen. But let's pick it up in 27 and 1. Be ready, go ahead.
But it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold now, I am old, I know not the day of my death.
Go ahead.
Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison. Make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die.
So now he's at the point of his demise, and he said, before I die, I want to bless you. That's what his father, excuse me, that's what Jacob, when you read about Jacob, right, he does the same thing. Blesses, tells you what's going to happen with his son. Each one of them. Okay, so it says, make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Verse 5.
And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau's son.
See, so Rebekah heard it, and she was wise, and she understood the plan of God, what God had in store. Go ahead.
Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it.
So she doesn't sit around. She concocts this. Go ahead.
And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat that I may eat, and bless thee before the Lord before my death.
Go ahead.
Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth.
So she tells him to go get some from the flock, and I'll make the meat. Go ahead.
And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, that he may bless thee before his death.
He said, because he needs to bless you before his death. What was Jacob? Go ahead.
And Jacob said to Rebekah's mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. and I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing.
So what was Jacob concerning this? He was afraid. Because he said, listen, perhaps my father will feel me. Esau is hairy, even though he can't see. What if he touches him? He said, I'm smooth, and he's hairy. Peradventure he will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and bring upon myself a curse instead of a blessing. Verse 13.
And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse.
See, she had faith and believed what God showed her. She said, man, upon me be thy curse. Just do what I told you to do. Go ahead.
When they obey my voice and go fetch me them.
Verse 18. Let's get down a little bit. Verse 18. Because he does it, and she even puts skins of kids and goats upon his hands, upon the smooth. So he really going to that hairy with this pottage. Now people talk about, you read commentaries about this and how this was such a great theft. You know, him doing this, but ultimately what he's trying to do is get something that actually belongs to him. Because his brother sold the birthright and was going to take. Notice Esau didn't say to his father when he said, I'm going to bless you before I die. Notice Esau didn't say, well, you got to bless Jacob because I actually sold my birthright. He kept his mouth shut. He said, you going to bless me? Okay. So he got the soup and he wants the birthright too. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And he came unto his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I. Where art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I'm Esau thy firstborn. I've done according as thou baddest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. Again, he's not literally Esau, but he's in the stead or in the place of Esau when it comes to the firstborn. Because again, he sold his birthright. Verse 20. And Isaac said unto his son, how is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God brought it to me. And the Lord did bring it to him. But go ahead, verse 21. And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, I may feel thee, my son. So go ahead. Whether thou be my very son Esau or not. See, he almost blind, but he's not dumb. He said, wait a minute, come here, come a little closer, that I may feel you that if you are Esau. Verse 22. And Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother Esau's hand. So he blessed him. And he said, thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, bring it near to me, that I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. So he brings mother venison, he eats, he drinks. Go ahead. And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his raiment, and he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord had blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brother, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. So now he's blessing him. Verse 30. It came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau, his brother, came in from his hunting. Now he's gotten the blessing, he's gotten the birthright blessing, and here comes, just as he's leaving out, here comes Esau. Verse 31. And he also had made savory meat and brought it unto his father and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. Wait a minute. Isaac his father said unto him, who was you? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. Go ahead. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, where is he that has taken venison and brought it to me? And I've eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, he shall be blessed. So one thing about it, he said, where's the one that I blessed? Because you know what? I blessed him, and he shall be blessed. It's not like I can take it back. So when Esau heard it, what was his response? And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even you also are my father. Now wait a minute, now you crying and you bitter, exceeding bitter crying. Wait a minute, what was all that emotion and vigor when he asked you for your birthright in the first place for some soup? See, if he really was sincere, he would have
he would have snapped on his brother right there. How dare you ask me for my birthright? I cherish this. This is from God. No, because he just wants to bless him. So he cries and says to his father, bless me, even me also. Go ahead.
And he said, thy brother came with subtlety and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he had taken away my blessing.
No. You sold your birthright, and in essence sold your blessing. Go ahead.
And he said, hast thou not reserved the blessing for me?
But he's begging for a blessing. Verse 37.
And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord. All his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? You
say, so you gonna be a servant. Verse 38.
And Esau said unto his father, is thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
Now he crying. Verse 39.
And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword thou shalt live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
Now listen what he says. He says, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. You're going to live off the fat of the earth. And from the dew of heaven, you're going to be prosperous. And he said, you're going to live by the sword, though. And it's going to come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt even break the yoke of your brother off your neck. And we're going to read that in verse 41.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
So now you see, even from the womb there's contention, and even at this point there's contention. And what are they contending over now? Who's going to be ultimately God's chosen people? See, it's not by coincidence that we're talking about, I know the blasphemy, and then we'll say they are Jews and they're not there saying Esau. Because they saying they are God's chosen people. They was trying to get that even from this point. But let's go to verse 43. Thank you.
Verse 42.
So he's going to even, verse 42, he's going to even kill his brother when his father dies. Like Cain. But verse 42.
And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, thou comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise and flee to Laban, my brother, to Haran.
So she sent him away, and she said, tarry with him a few days. It turned into many years. Many years. But let's go to chapter 32. Because he went to live with Laban. Let's see where Esau ended up. This is Genesis 32 and verse 1. Genesis 32 and verse 1. Where did he end up? You ready? Go ahead.
And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw him, he said, this is God's host. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. He worked
for over 20 years with his uncle, with Laban. And now he's gone out with his wives and his children, and he's about to meet his brother once again. So it says, and Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's host. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim, because he has 2 bands. He had the people that were with him, and then he had God's angels. But verse 3.
And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother, to the land of Seir, the country of Edom.
Okay, so when you talk about Esau, where was he at? In the land of Seir, in the land or the country of Edom. Bozrah, Edom, Seir, Esau's all talking about the same one. Let's go to Genesis 42. Let's go to Genesis 42. Because we saw, see, like I said, this is the biggest fraud going. So now we see the genesis of these people, how they came to be. We saw one was red and hairy all over, and we saw that Jacob was a smooth man. But let's see further what Jacob even looked like. Let's go to Genesis, Genesis 42, and we're going to pick it up at verse 6. We're going to find out what he looked like and what came of him. Genesis 42 and verse 6. When you're ready, go ahead.
And Joseph was the governor over the land.
Joseph was one of the 12 sons of Jacob. And his brothers, out of jealousy, sold him into slavery in Egypt. He suffered there, was even imprisoned there, but rose up to the upper echelons of government. And it said that Joseph was the governor over all the land. Go ahead.
And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. Joseph's brothers came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
He had dreamed that would happen earlier, that they would bow down to him. And that's actually what happened. So his brothers, and this is many years later, after they sold him to some Ishmaelites, some other sons of Abraham, who we call Arabs. So it said Joseph's brother came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. They made obeisance to him, verse 7.
And Joseph saw his brother, and he knew them.
So he recognized his brother. This is many years later. He recognized his brother. Go ahead.
But made himself stranger to them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come thou? And they said, From the land of Canaan to Bethel.
Go ahead.
And Joseph knew his brother, but they knew not him.
So how is it, we have to ask ourselves the question, how is it that this seed of Jacob, this Israelite, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, Joseph, one of the patriarchs, how is it that he is not recognized by his own brother? This is many years later. Perhaps, and he's amongst the Egyptians, perhaps he's dressed like an Egyptian. And another thing is that he looked like an Egyptian. He looked like the ancient Egyptians looked. Because if he looked like this, or even like a Caucasian, he would stick out. It's just like anybody in here could go to Nigeria and blend in. If you don't say anything, many will just assume that you are Nigerian. Or they might well ask you, are you Igbo, are you Yoruba? But you cannot go to Norway and do the same thing. You might get stares if you go to Poland. So what's happening? You have one black man amongst many black people, although one is Semitic and one is of the sons of Ham, or Kivit, Mitzrayim. So let's go to verse 40, chapter 41. Do we finish this?
Yes.
Yeah, so Joseph knew his brother, but they knew not him. They didn't recognize him because he's one black man amongst many. See, he wasn't red. And we're going to look at what the Egyptians look like in a second. But let's go to 41 and verse 45. Because here when we deal with Joseph, we're going to also see something else again. Like I said in the introduction, there's no way biblically, historically, if you look at archaeology, that these people are the people of the book. These people were not in Egypt. We see they don't look like the ancient Egyptians. And we're going to see that further. And this is another factor that we should factor in. This is Genesis 41 and verse 45. Genesis 41 and verse 45. Because we're going to see what Joseph did. When you're ready, go ahead.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zebnath-Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Pethapriah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt.
Why are we reading this? Because you need to consider where these men were getting their wives from. Where were they getting their wives from? What we would consider today black Africans. That's where they were getting their wives from. Let's go to, at least in this part, let's go to Exodus 1. So you got some black people dealing with some other black people, even though they're not from the same lineage. So you're not getting all these white people like they in the land today. Look, that's not what happened. This is Exodus 1 and verse 1. We're gonna find out ultimately what happened to Israel. This is Exodus 1 and 1. What happened to Israel? When you're ready, go ahead.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt.
So now Jacob, name was Jacob, he went into his name was changed to Israel. He went into Egypt. He said every man in his household came with him, came with Jacob. Go ahead.
Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Ash. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. But Joseph was in Egypt already.
And again, where they getting their women from? Where they getting again, they getting them from the surrounding peoples. But these are black people. You look at Esau, he's an actually totally different nation. So it says, and Joseph died and all his brethren, and all that generation. Verse 7.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with it. So they continued to increase, and we know the story. We know that after Joseph died, another Pharaoh rose up. He looked at their fruitful production, and he was threatened by it, and even started to commit genocide. So when Moses is born, his mother sends him up the stream, and Pharaoh's daughter gets him, and he's raised in Pharaoh's house, and he is educated in the ways of the Egyptians, the most advanced empire at that time. And we should understand also that he is not looking like some foreigner. He looked like the Egyptians in general, generally speaking. But this is Exodus 2 and verse 16. Because he slays a man and that has dealt treacherously with one of his brethren, and then he leaves. Okay? And then he goes to Saudi Arabia, which is what Midian is. So this is Exodus 2 and verse 16. Are you ready? Go ahead. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. So he stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And one thing about this too, when we're looking at the so-called Middle East, and you think about the white areas that are there now, you should understand that even those lands were filled with black people. Even when you talk about Iraq, you look again, archaeology and historically, these are predominantly black people. So we should understand that. And they look the way they do now. Even Egypt looks different now because of the Arab conquest. Ultimately, that's why they consider Arab countries today. You had the Turks come in many of these countries. But it said, and the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. Verse 18. And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye have come so soon today? So how is it that you've come so soon today? You finished your chore. What did they say? And they said, and the Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. Now Moses was an Israelite of the tribe of Levi. That's why I always ask people, when they talk about Jews, I say, was Moses a Jew? They'll tell you, yeah, no, Moses was a Levite. It says, and they said, but they thought he was an Egyptian. Why? Because Israel looked like the Egyptians. So the question we should ask is, what did the Egyptians look like? What was the color of the Egyptians? These are black people. And it's even white supremacy is so rampant, it's even a concerted effort to make the Egyptians Caucasians. Why? Because when you look at Egyptian civilization, when you have the first surgeries, those took place in Egypt. They were doing cataract surgery in ancient Egypt. You have advanced mathematics. If you think about the pyramids, for example, the pyramids they built were earthquake-proof. These pyramids were earthquake-proof. They had a temperature, no matter what was going on outside, the temperature was always like 76 degrees in the inside of the pyramid. So they had advanced knowledge. They even can't understand and cannot replicate the pyramids today with the equipment that they have today. So when you look at philosophy, Greek philosophy, it came out of Egypt. Their religious systems came out of Egypt. Advanced mathematics, all these things. So they have white supremacy. That don't go along with white supremacy. But their ancient historians, like Herodotus, tells you that these Egyptians were black. Why is this important? Because if they were black and Israel looked like them, they were also black. So how do you have these white-looking folks in Israel right now claiming to be God's chosen people? So this is from the histories, Herodotus. This is a classical work. And he's explaining
the flow of the Nile. And in explaining the flow of the Nile, he indirectly tells you what the Egyptians look like. He says, he's talking about, here's evidence. I'll just read the last one. He says, the third evidence is afforded by the people dwelling there. He says, Egyptians, Ethiopians, and Libyans who are black colored by reason of the burning heat. So he said they black in color. Even when you look at like Ethiopia, that's Greek for what? Burnt face. This is Sheikh Anta Diop and his work, the African origin of civilization, but the reality, Herodotus he says Herodotus may be mistaken when he reports the customs of a people, when he reasons more or less cleverly to explain a phenomenon incomprehensible in his day. But one must grant that he was at least capable of recognizing the skin color of the inhabitants of countries he has visited. See, he, like many Greeks, went into Egypt. The Greeks studied in the Egyptian mystery schools, and they knew what the people looked like. Why does a man with 5 PhDs have to do this? Say something so simple, because white supremacy would say that these people are white. It's just like white supremacy would say you couldn't possibly be God's chosen people. You got people that are not even quote unquote practicing Judaism. They are so-called Christians. They will step over you, call you the N-word, but then send some money. I'm talking about religious groups, but then send some money to save the Jews, save the poor Jews. Poor Jews. Please. They got more money than these Caucasians. This is an Egyptologist. See, again, you look at things like this, you don't see another nation where there's a study where you can get an advanced degree in the study of that nation. This is how advanced Egypt was. And this is why they wanted to stop the perpetuation of information that these were black people. That's what Egyptologists do. They basically are gatekeepers to information. But he says, Maspero, who is an Egyptologist, he says by the almost unanimous testimony of ancient historians, they, Egyptians, belong to an African race which first settled in Ethiopia on the Middle Nile. Following the course of the river, they gradually reached the sea. So he says, listen, ancient historians who were Europeans are telling you that the Egyptians were black people. So if they are black people and Israel look like them, Israel must be black people. Again, somebody's perpetrating a fraud. Let's go to Numbers 20. Numbers 20. Because we want to see what happened. And we knew there was contention, but we want to see what happened when the God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob brought Israel out of bondage. See, that was foretold in the days of Abraham. That his people, his seed, would serve for 400 years, and then they would be brought out with great substance out of that land. That happened then. When you read that, that's not talking about America. That's not talking about America. That's talking about Egypt. This is Numbers 20 and verse 14. What happened after Israel was delivered? This is Numbers 20 and verse 14. Because they're going to go and they're going to see their brother, Edom. When you ready, go ahead.
And Moses sent messengers for Kadesh to the king of Edom.
The Edom had set up kings. He had set up dukes. Go ahead.
Thus said thy brother Israel, thou knowest all the travel that hath before me.
So you know all the travail, the trials and tribulations that have befallen your brother. Go ahead.
How our fathers went down into Egypt, and how we dwelt in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers.
You know, we've suffered greatly at the hands of the Egyptians. Go ahead.
And when we cried unto the Lord, he heard our voice, and sent an angel, and had brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we're in Kadesh, the city in the uttermost of that war.
So he said, you know what happened to us? Now he's going to ask, he's going to make a request. Go ahead.
Let us pass, I pray thee, through that country. We will not pass through the fields or through the vineyards. Neither will we drink of the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway, and we will not turn to the right hand nor to the left until we have passed that war.
The one thing about it, the other nations, the Hamitic nation, like the Amorites, when you read it in Genesis, When you read about what Abraham was shown, he said, hey, listen, the iniquity of the Edomites is not yet full. That was full, and then it was time to take that land, which is what Israel did. But one thing they did not do, they were not taking the land of other Semitic peoples. Because the Bible, you read it, he said, hey, don't bother Ammon, don't bother Moab, and don't bother Edom. Okay? But nevertheless, he asked just to go through the land. Let bygones be bygones. Let us go through. He said, listen, we will not pass through thy fields. We're not going to eat your food or through the vineyards. Neither will we drink of the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway. We will not turn to the right hand nor to the left until we have passed our borders. And what did his brothers say? Verse 18.
And Edom said unto him, thou shalt not pass by me, lest I come out against thee with the sword.
He said, you come over here if you want to, you get cut. And Edom said unto him, thou shalt not pass by me, lest I come out against thee with the sword. Again. So he's living by the sword. But again, you have that contention even from the womb. From the womb, they fighting in the womb. They get out the womb, they fighting over the birthright. Hundreds and hundreds of years later, Israel has gone through bodies, and now they're about to fight again. Contention. Verse 19.
And the children of Israel said unto him, we will go by the highway. And if I and my cattle drink of thy water, then I will pay for it. I will only, without doing anything else, go through on my feet. So
he says, I'm not a threat to you. But verse 20.
And he said, thou shalt not go through. And Edom came out against him with much people and with a strong hand.
And this is his brother. Verse 21.
Thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his border. Wherefore Israel turned away from him.
Go ahead.
And the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came into Mount Hor. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron.
That's verse 22. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go to 1 Samuel, because this was not the only contention. And remember what we read in Genesis, where it's talking about his yoke is going to be on your neck. So years later, once Israel was established, they began to subjugate Edom. This is 1 Samuel 14. And we'll pick it up at verse 47. Now, this is in the days of Saul, the first king of Israel. Let's see what happened then. This is 1 Samuel 14 and verse 47. You ready to go ahead?
So Saul took the kingdom of Israel and fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab and against the children of Ammon and against Edom and against the kings of Zobah and against the Philistines. And whithersoever he turned himself, he vexed them.
So now he's fighting against his neighbors. He fight Moab, Ammon, and Edom. Okay, so he's fighting them. Now Edom, though, is his brother. Two different nations, though, and he's fighting. Let's go to 2 Samuel. So again, always contention. 2 Samuel, the 8th chapter, and we'll pick it up at verse 13. 2 Samuel 18, excuse me, 2 Samuel 8 and verse 13. So now you got the next King, David. Let's see what's happening in King David's days. You ready to go there?
David got him a name when he returned from smiting of the Syrians in the valley of Saul. Been 18,000 men.
So David was a mighty warrior, a great warrior, and it said David got him a name when he returned from smiting the Syrians in the valley of Saul, being 18,000 men. And what did he do?
And he put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom put he garrisons. And all they of Edom became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. So
like I said, their yoke was on their neck, so to speak. They became servants to Israel. Edom did. Let's go to, again, constant contention. Let's go to 2 Chronicles. Right after 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, 20th chapter. Second Chronicles, the 20th chapter, and we'll pick it up at verse 22. 20 and verse 22. When you're ready, go ahead.
And when they began to sing and to pray, the Lord set ambushes against the children of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, which were come against Judah, and they were smitten. For the children of Ammon and Moab stood against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, utterly to slay and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, everyone helped to destroy another.
So this is in the days of Jehoshaphat, and now he's fighting them. But what happened? He's fighting Edom, Moab, and Ammon, and they start fighting each other. So the Lord set it up today so that Israel would be victorious. But ultimately, Israel was not always victorious, because in the days of the Babylonian conquest, here comes Edom. This is Psalms. Let's go to the book of Psalms. 137 Psalms, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Because Nebuchadnezzar, Jeremiah, you read the writers of Jeremiah, he's pleading with the kings of Israel. He's pleading with the people. He's telling them what's going to happen. He said, man, you actually need to surrender. If they don't listen to him, they even ask him, what does say the Lord? He tells them, they say, the Lord didn't speak unto you. So they're doing all except for what they should do. And what happens? They go into captivity, and Israel is depopulated. And here in this psalm, we're reading about that event, about the despair of being a captive. This is Psalms 137 and verse 1. When you're ready, go ahead.
By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept when you remembered Zion.
So now you're weeping, right? Our people weeping. You want to think about serving God, because if you think about serving God, you wouldn't be in that condition, right? That's just like even Esau, he was weeping. But if he had not despised his birthright, he would have got the blessing. Had our people not sinned or transgressed against God's law, we wouldn't be weeping by the rivers of Babylon, out of our land. He said, by the rivers of Babylon there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. Go ahead.
We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof.
So this is a time of sadness. Go ahead.
For there they that carried us away captives required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. So
those that carried us away captive required of us mirth. That's just like today. You in despair, you in a terrible condition. Dance, Negro. They want you to dance and be happy. Put a smile on your face. Why are you looking like that? Because of you. That's why. But they said, for there they carried us away captive, required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. Sing us one of the songs. All these songs were sang. They sing us one of the songs of Zion. But verse 4.
How should we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?
How are we going to sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Verse 5.
If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning.
Uh-huh.
If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy.
If I don't remember Jerusalem, he said, let my right hand forget how to operate. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Let me be mute. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy, then the psalmist asks God to do something. Verse 7.
Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. In the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. So
who was there when Israel was being destroyed? Edom. And what were they doing? They were helping. And they were saying, raise it. Not raise it, build it up, but raise it. R-A-Z-E, or here's R-A-S-E. That means destroy it down to the ground. That's what it said, even the foundation thereof. Burn it down to the ground. Now this is his brother. He said, remember what they did. Don't ever forget what they did. So let's look at history and see what they did. So now this is from Smith's Bible Dictionary, page 156. It says, they, Edom, joined Nebuchadnezzar when that king besieged Jerusalem. See? They joined, was that enemy of my enemy is my friend? They joined Babylon to destroy Israel. He said, after this, they settled in southern Palestine, and for more than 400 years continued to prosper. So they actually moved into the promised land. This is what Edom did. They actually took some of the land. This is from the Zion Victoria Bible Dictionary, page 234. It says, when Jerusalem was destroyed and Judah depopulated by the Babylonians in 586, because that's what they did. They took them in captivity, and then they dispersed them throughout. Took them back to Babylon. He said the Edomites rejoiced over the affliction of the Judeans and began to take over the southern part of Palestine. Eventually, they penetrated as far north as Hebron or Hebron. This action intensified the already smoldering hatred between the Jews and Edomites, because they hated each other even from the womb. What happened later? Well, let's go to Ezekiel before we read this. Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, the 36th chapter. Because they actually took some of the promised land. And when they even took it, and when Israel, because Israel after that siege in 586 BC, they eventually went back under the decrees of Artaxerxes and the decrees of Cyrus put forth, and they were able to go back under the Medo-Persian reign that came up after the Babylonian reign. So they're able to go back into the land, but they still couldn't get back that land that Edom took. So this is, I just want to read this here. This is Ezekiel 36 and verse 5. Ezekiel 36 and verse 5. You ready to go ahead?
Therefore, thus said the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen.
So he said, I've spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against who?
And against all Idumea.
Idumea is the name that it became, that land of Edom. It became, they called it, the Greeks and the Romans, I believe, called it Idumea. Which they what?
Which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a price. So they actually took the promised land. It said, which have appointed my land into their possession. You got to think about it though. These are the same one. These are the seed of the same one who wanted that firstborn blessing in the first place. So it said, therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. Let's go to Psalms 83. Psalms the 83rd division. But this psalm, the psalmist again has something to say about Edom. This is Psalms 83 and verse 1. Psalms 83 and verse 1. We ready to go ahead? Keep not thou silent, O God. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
So it says, keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace and be not still. That's one thing. One thing about it is when it was time for war, time of trouble, they would cry out to God. Now I don't think we have even the spirit to fight, but they say, keep not thy silence, O God, hold not thy peace and be not still. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. What have they done?
They've taken crafty counsel against thy people. They've consulted against thy hidden ones.
So they've conspired against your people. What have they done? Verse 4.
And they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
So let's wipe them out completely. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. So one thing about being a nation, you have to have land and sovereignty, but you also have to have identity and know who you are as well. He said, let us cut them off from even being a nation. That the name of Israel. See, that's the name. See, it's not African American, it's not Negro, it's not colored. It's Israel. It said that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Go ahead.
For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
So now they have consulted together, these heathen, these that don't know God have gotten together and consulted against thee. Who's the first one he's going to name?
The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes.
So these people have gotten together to do this. And what have they said? Verse 12. Let's get down to verse 12. We ready to go ahead?
Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
Right, so they said, what? Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. Let us take the promised land. Go ahead.
Oh my God, make them like a wheel, as a stubble before the wind.
And the Psalms is praying for their demise. He said, oh my God, make them like a wheel as the stubble before the wind. Go ahead.
As the fire burneth the wood, and as the flames settle the the mountains on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So persecute them with thy tempest and make them afraid with thy storms. Fill thy faces with shame that they may seek thy name, O Lord.
See, we got enemies. He said they're praying for their downfall. He said, so persecute them with thy tempest and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Go ahead.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish.
Let them be wiped out. Let them be destroyed. Go ahead.
That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, are the Most High over all the earth.
And show yourself in their destruction. Show yourself in their destruction. But I want to go back to this to understand some more about Edom as far as time. So it says in Maccabean times. Now this is the time between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Also, John Hyrcanus subdued the Idumeans or the Edomites and forced them to accept. Now the Zion Pictorial Bible Dictionary is calling it Judaism, but there was no Judaism. He didn't give us Judaism. He gave us a way of life. Okay? Judaism is what these so-called Jews practice. And what they forced the Edomites to do was basically take upon the customs and the laws that were given to Israel. Now it says when the Romans took over Palestine, the Edomites also were included. So they took over Palestine and Edom. But what they did was, like a lot of Europeans would do among subjugated people, they would put one above the other. For example, they did that in Rwanda. The Hutus and the Tutsis, one upon another, led to genocide. But nevertheless, it says from Idumea came Antipater, the father of Herod the Great. So Herod the Great was the one that was in charge when the Messiah came on the scene. He was an Idumean. He was an Edomite, and they were acquainted with the way of life of Israel. As far as their faith, that's why he's the one that built upon the temple that was the second temple that was constructed during the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. He made it much bigger than even Solomon's temple. After the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, the Idumeans disappeared from history. Well, they didn't just disappear from history. Ultimately, if you read other historical works on them, they were considered Jews, and they just spread out. This is from the Encyclopedia Judaica, volume 6, page 378. John Hyrcanus conquered the whole of Edom and undertook the forced conversion of its inhabitants to, again, what they're calling Judaism. This is in Josephus' Antiquities, the 13th section. It says, thenceforth, now this is the New Standard Jewish Encyclopedia, it said, thenceforth the Edomites became a section of the Jewish people. But they were by convert. They were converted. They weren't really actually by blood. This is from A.R. Foster's in his Bible Encyclopedia and Dictionary, page 185. It says at the Babylonian captivity, they seized on the Amalekite territory, even the Hebrew and southern Judea. So this is what all these sources are telling you the same thing. They took, talking about Edom, they took even South Judea. So that Idumea came to mean the region between Arabah and the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, Mount Seir or Edom proper was occupied by the Nabateans, descended from Nebaioth, Ishmael's eldest son and Esau's brother-in-law, a powerful people of South Arabia. Idumea, south of Palestine, was joined to Judea under Judas Maccabeus and John Hyrcanus, Antipater, one of the Jewish prefects, and Idumean, or an Edomite, by Roman Senate's decree became procurator of all Judea. His son was Herod the Great. So it says, just before the siege of the Titus, 20,000 Idumeans were admitted into Jerusalem and filled with bloodshed and pain. Mahomet, Muhammad, misrule finally destroyed Edom's prosperity. They say in the fulfillment of Ezekiel 35. So let's see who else disappeared. Let's go to Revelation 2. Revelation 2. Because you got, again, you have to ask yourself, who are these people calling themselves Jews? These are Edomites. And the Bible's telling you that somebody's perpetrating a fraud. This is Revelation 2 and 9. These are the words of Jesus. He said somebody perpetrated a fraud. This is Revelation 2 and verse 9. When you ready, go ahead.
I know that works in tribulation and poverty.
So he said, I know that works and tribulation and poverty. He knows many of your trials and tribulations. Talking about Israel, but he says what?
But thou art rich.
But you are rich. Now, how are you impoverished and rich at the same time? We're going to explain that. So he said, I know that works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And what else does he know?
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan.
And he says, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. See, somebody's perpetrating a fraud. Now, we read earlier that after 70 AD, Edom disappeared from history. We want to see who else disappeared from history. This is from Jerusalem in the Bible Times, page 149. It says, in 66 AD, the war of rebellion against the Romans broke out, and in 70 AD, the siege of the city was begun by Titus. After long, stubborn resistance was necessitated that every wall and every court of the town should be conquered separately, the city at last fell in September 70 AD. The temple and other principal buildings were burned, and they were even up in the temple trying to find refuge, and they set that on fire. The temple and other principal buildings were burned, and Titus gave orders in the city that the city should be razed to the ground, meaning totally destroyed. Just like in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, when Edom was yelling, raise it, raise it. They did the same thing in Titus's days. It was raised to the ground. You read Josephus' account of the temple. It says it's as if the temple was there. That's how you know the Wailing Wall is not the temple. Even most importantly, the Messiah says there shall not be one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. I'm talking about the temple. And that happened in 70 AD. So that Titus gave orders that the city should be razed to the ground, except the wall enclosing Herod's palace. That was left as a fortress for the Roman garrison. Okay, the temple totally destroyed though. With this event, ancient Jerusalem came to an end. So when we talk about identity, this is the end ultimately as a nation. When they said let us cut them off from being a nation, this is when it actually happened. It said up to this time the life of the city had been uninterrupted in spite of all the disasters that had befallen it, and the thread of historical tradition in regard to localities had not been severed. They were still Israelites. He said, but after this event, there was no longer any continuity with the past. So now we were severed as a people from our land and ultimately from our identity. And where did we go? See, Edom took upon, they went to other places. They went up north. They went to other places. But the Israelites went further into the interior of Africa amongst other black people. Israel, if you read the scriptures, they're constantly going into Africa. Constantly going into Africa. Egypt and Ethiopia, constantly. It said under the Ptolemies, Cyrenaica, northeastern Libya, had become the home of many Jews, and their numbers in this part of Africa were greatly increased. So understand, you got all these Jews or Judeans in Africa. They weren't white. They were increased greatly by the Romans when Emperor Vespasian deported many others, increased after a rebellion against Roman rule in Palestine and the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Okay, because Titus was his general. It said, while some of them remained in coastal settlements, others migrated deep into the Great Sahara, sometimes becoming nomads and at other times settling in towns and cities of the African interior. That's what happened to Israel. So you don't have a record of a bunch of white Jews going into the interior of Africa. But you can go to this day. You can go to Nigeria. You can go to Ghana. You can go to South Africa. You can go to Zimbabwe. You can go to Congo. You can go all over Africa. Even Eastern Africa, and you will find black people who are saying we are Israelites all over Africa. So let's go to Romans. Thank you. Romans 3. See, somebody's perpetrating a fraud. He said, I know that works in tribulation and poverty. See, all this happened. We've been destroyed as a people He said, but thou art rich. Now, how are we rich? Let's go to Romans 3. But if you don't know your identity, you don't know your true wealth. This is Romans 3 and verse 1. Romans 3 and verse 1. What's our wealth as a people? When you ready, go ahead.
What advantage did it have the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision?
Meaning, he's talking about, when he's saying what profit is there of circumcision, what advantage did it have the Jew? What's the big deal, or what's so good about being an Israelite? Verse 2.
Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God.
He said, much every way, chiefly. In the highest way, because unto them were committed the oracles of God. There are no other people on the face of the earth, throughout the annals of human history, that have been delivered the word of God by God except you. That should make us question, why do we behave in the way that we do? When God has only revealed himself unto us. He said, much every way chiefly, because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. Let's go to Amos. See, we the only ones he manifested himself unto. Other nations have made contributions to humanity. But we have the duty of the greatest contribution, which is to show the rest of the sons of Adam how to serve God. He said, I made you to be a kingdom, nation in the kingdom of priests, a holy nation. And other nations were supposed to look at us and see the wisdom that we have within us from adhering to the law of God and the prosperity that we had because we followed God. This is Amos 3 and verse 1. Are you ready? Go ahead.
It is word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying,
I'm that God that brought you up out of Egypt. What did he say?
You only have I known of all the families of the earth.
See, that's why it's blasphemy. Because you got another people saying they the ones that God dealt with. No. He said, only you have I known of all the nations of the earth. And what is he going to do and has been doing to us?
Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
He said, therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28. So we see what happened. Both ceased to be what they once were. But one took on the identity and called themselves Jews, and another was scattered into slavery. Now this is what Moses prophesied of prior to Israel. This is Deuteronomy 28, and we'll pick it up at verse 15. We could read all the blessings, but that was only for a moment. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. When you ready, go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God,
If you don't listen, go ahead.
to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. But all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So you got to ask yourself the question. Let's read these curses and see, do they line up? Who are these people that are being cursed by God? And are they the people in the land today, or are they living in prosperity? Even when they talk about a Holocaust, and at the threat of being called a Holocaust denier, one thing about it, I could care less. When you look at history, you will find that the number 6 million that they gave was false. 6 million so-called Jews did not die in the Holocaust. Furthermore, there were many other people that got killed during the Holocaust. But that number was a predetermined number. They already had the number 6 million. And then when you read their records later, when you read about Auschwitz, you understand that there's absolutely no way that that was the number. Then you read further, talking about other so-called Jews who were actually working with the Germans. But see, one thing about these particular people is that they have a system in place to protect them from any type of critique, any type of you saying that what they're doing is incorrect. They have names for you. Just like they can call you, what's the name of you so-called afraid of homosexuals? You are homophobic. Now, when you really think about it, you homophobic. Are you afraid of homosexuals? Or do you just not agree with the lifestyle? So that's a way to put the disparaging name upon you. Same thing with anti-Semitic. How do you call somebody anti-Semitic that's Semitic themselves? Because, or even when you say ADL, Anti-Defamation League, what are they doing? They are the watchdogs of these people. They will destroy your life. So I'm just saying what's really going on. I don't care about any of that. I just tell you what the book said, what history is saying. So we had Deuteronomy 28. And it says, but it shall come to pass that thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And we're going to read these curses and see if this is what's happened to them. Verse 16, when you ready, go ahead.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
So now wherever you go, you're going to be cursed. Now granted, these people who call themselves Jews, when you read historical records, people have said disparaging things about them when they've gone to these lands, traveling here and there. But one thing about it, though, they were prosperous when they were going here and when they were going there. Cursed shall thou be in that city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. We were not prosperous. We worked the fields in this country. We worked the fields in the Caribbean. We worked the fields in Central and South America. We were not prosperous. We moved to the urban cities. We dwelt in the ghettos and in the favelas. We dwelt in the shanty towns. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. What about economically? Verse 17.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
You're going to be cursed economically. And when you look at the people who call themselves Jews or Israelis today, they are, per capita, have more money than everybody. They run the banking institutions. They're not on the bottom. They were instrumental in the slave trade. They are not the slave. Let's say, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store, verse 18.
Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. So everything you have is going to be cursed if you don't obey me. He said, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, your children are going to be cursed, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. See, this happened then, and it's even happening unto the day. Look at our children even today. But verse 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and shalt flee 7 ways before them. You're going to be destroyed before your enemies. So we were destroyed by the Assyrians. We were destroyed by the Babylonians. We were destroyed by the Romans. Ultimately, we were taken in tribal wars when we were in Africa and taken as slaves. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be what? It shall be removed into all the kingdoms. You're going to migrate. Shall be removed. Shall be vacation. Shall be removed. Shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Taken as slaves. See, that didn't happen to those people. That happened to us, though. Verse 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, that no man shall fray them away. You're not going to be buried in these times of war. You're not going to be buried with a acceptable burial. Rather, your body's going to be laid out in the field, just like some roadkill. You're going to be hanging from a tree like strange fruit. That carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. See, this is what happened to them, and what has happened to us mentally. Verse 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of all. See, one thing, we were smitten before our enemies. You look at the people who call themselves today, they live amongst their enemies. And they are victorious amongst their enemies. Not us. And we look at our condition and can't understand. And
It said, the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart, of the mind. You're not going to have peace in the mind. Everywhere you go, even then, think about this really being taken into captivity and what's going on mentally. When you look at what happened to us as slaves and the atrocities, and I mean atrocities that happened to us as slaves, you have to understand that that took a mental toll. And there was no therapy after that. That stuff has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Go ahead.
And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in dark. And thou shalt not prosper in thy way. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled of a more.
So he said, he said, thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in dark. So in other words, the way in which you should go and what you should do is going to be hidden from you. But you're going to be groping. That's what these leaders do today. That so-called leaders. You listen to what they're saying. They telling you what we should do. They're groping in the dark. He said, thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. We haven't been saved even until this day. Verse 30.
Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her.
You're going to betroth a wife. A wife tender to you, one that you love, but it said another man shall lie with her. We're not talking about adultery here, where she's going behind your back. We're talking about a slave master coming out the big house, walking to the shacks, telling you to get out so he can have his way with your wife. See, that's one thing about being a slave. You can't be a man and a slave at the same time. You can't be a man and a slave at the same time. See, to be a man in this sojourn, as far as slavery goes, meant you would try to be a man, it had been ultimate death. A horrific death. But that's ultimately what should have been. Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her. He said, thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. You built this country. The economic wealth at its foundation is built upon the last batch of slaves. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. We did even all the trades work in this country. And during slavery, and even after that. He said, thou shalt plant a vineyard and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. But we have not benefited from that. What do we have even after slavery? 1/2 of all the nation's wealth. And when you look at it today, it's similar. I'm not talking about spending power. You saw spending power when silly Negroes was out yesterday trying to get everything that they didn't need on credit, but that's not wealth. That's not true wealth. Let's go to 32. What does it say is going to happen to your kids? Oh, what verse we at?
Verse 31.
Verse 31, go ahead.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face.
Go ahead.
It shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
So everything you have is going to be taken away. Everything that God gave you is going to be taken away. Even your children. Verse 32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another people, and thine eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long. There should be no might in thine hand. You think
that didn't just happen during the time in this sojourn where they were snatching babies from women? You don't think that happened in Babylonian captivity? When they were looking for young men they could raise up. You read about that in Daniel. You think they asked their parents, listen, can we please have him work? They took your child. You a slave. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. See, this is the consequence for sin. This is the consequence for transgression against God's law. A terrible state. Let's get down to verse 37. You ready? Go ahead.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee.
Yeah, you think about them people who call themselves Jews today, they got some names too. But go to Israel and see what they call you. See how they treat blacks, the black migrant Africans that have come there, they got them in camps. They got them in concentration camps. You go there right now, they in camps. Look how they treat the brothers over there went to Demona. Look at how they treat the so-called philosopher or Beta Israel. See, they got the power. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. And we as a people, wherever we go, we at the bottom. People look at us at the bottom. We even go to African countries. We at the bottom. As far as how they looking at us. They come over here, and what they call us? They call us cotton pickers. I'm not talking about white people, I'm talking about Africans that come over here. They call us cotton pickers. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Let's skip down to verse 41. Go ahead.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them.
Why not?
For they shall go into captivity.
Those sons and your daughters will be taken from you. Let's get down to verse 45. You ready to go ahead?
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
So he's telling us why we're going to endure this. Read verse 46.
And it shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
What's upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever? These curses. So when you see these curses, you can understand who Israel is, and you also understand who they are not. Israel is cursed. These people over here are blessed. They are blessed, and they are surrounded by enemies. He said, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, or upon thy seed forever. Let's get down to verse 64. You ready to go here? Verse 64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
And that's what we have done. We've been cast into the Arab countries, practicing Islam. We've gone throughout the African nations and adopted their spiritual systems. We've gone to other nations, Europe, the Americas, wherever, and adopted pagan Christianity. He says, there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Verse 65.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease.
You're going to find no ease wherever you at. Go ahead.
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and a sorrow of mind.
You're going to have a trembling heart, a failing of eyes, and sorrow, man. What about your life?
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee.
See, that's our life hanging in doubt in the streets. You have kids, especially males, you understand that it could be a cop misconstrued something, and that life is taken. It says, and that life shall hang in doubt before thee. And thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. There's none assurance of our lives today. Even in 2017, one misconception Negroes have about time is that they believe that there is only progression. No, Negro, we can go backwards, which is what you're seeing today. That's what you're seeing today. We don't even have that mindset. Just because things were tolerable for a second don't mean it's going to keep getting better. You look at Reconstruction. During this country, right after slavery, they had between 1865 and 1877 Reconstruction. They had black politicians. You had a black senator. You had a black lieutenant governor. You had black judges. You had black people voting. You had black people educating themselves. And what happened after 1877, that great betrayal? What happened was, you had for the next 100 years sheer terror in the South. You had a Klan riding through the night, lynching people. You had the racial etiquette of Jim Crow. You had murder. You had economic exploitation for 100 years. It's just so now that you have a semblance of some type of freedom, and don't you recognize that that's even being taken away? But Negroes think, I keep saying Negro because it's a mindset. Negroes think that things are only going to get better. No, things are actually going to get worse. They're getting worse. I tell you another thing. For all in America, it shows you a picture of itself as this great place to live. But take a drive through these urban areas where we at. We in one right now that's deindustrialized, no investment, unemployment. This is not the only one. Go to where we at in Chicago, you're going to see the same thing. Go to where we at in Detroit, you're going to see the same thing. Go to where we at in Baltimore, you're going to see the same thing. All where we at, this is not getting better. But it says, now life shall hang in doubt. Before then thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. And when it truly gets bad, you're going to even see this more. You seeing it now, but you're going to see it a whole lot more. Let the wheels fall off and see who's to blame. Or who gets blamed, I should say. Verse
67.
Thank you, 67.
In the morning thou shalt say, would God will eat. And even thou shalt say, would God will mourn.
If it were evening, things would be better. If it were morning, things would be better. No. It's not getting better. Go ahead.
For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
You're just trying to survive. And what's the ultimate thing that's going to happen to you? What's going to be your lot ultimately? Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
So he said, the Lord, the one that delivered you, that same one, when you sin against him, he said he's going to bring thee into Egypt. Now, Egypt, when you read in Exodus 20, is referred to as the house of bondage. This is where Israel experienced its first bondage. It is synonymous with slavery. So he said, the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, or bondage, again with ships, or slave ships. Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. So
you're going into slavery. You're going to be taken out of your land, and what's going to happen?
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
You got to tell me when these people calling themselves Jews were put on slave ships. We're not talking about Auschwitz. We're not talking about a Holocaust. And I'm not downplaying what took place. It just didn't take place to the extent that they say. But it says, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man's going to redeem you. See, that happened to us. That didn't happen to them. See, everybody want to be the chosen people, and nobody want to deal with these curses. So nobody want to deal with these curses. They just want to be the chosen people. You got some Europeans, some straight Europeans talking about, Great Britain and the United States is Israel. How that work? It don't. How that add up? It don't. Somebody went into slavery. That happened to us. Thou shalt see it no more again, and then you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So how did that take place? How did we get from to ships on the west coast of Africa? And if you hear the common narrative, it's just Africans who selling Africans. I was watching recently, one of these scholars out of Harvard it was a long time ago he did it, but he had a special documentary where he talked about the slave kingdoms of Africa. And he positions it, and this positions as if Africans were just selling other Africans. That is the common narrative, but that is not actually what took place. And when you look at history closely, you understand that. For example, he even went to a place called Yehuda. Okay, and what does Yehuda mean? It means Judah. And what was that? That was a great slave hub. The slaves went in and out. But he didn't put the two together. He was too busy trying to be white. But nevertheless, you see here on this map, you see Judah, where it says slave coast, and it says Judah on the map. It's many maps. The map makers would say they would show you where the Jews or Judeans were located. It even says Kingdom of Judah up here. Why does it say that? Because Israel, like we read earlier, went into the interior of Africa. They settled amongst the people. And when the transatlantic slave trade got started by the Portuguese and others, came in, they were the ones more susceptible to being sold. I'm not saying 100% they were all, but Israel, for sure, according to history and the Bible, were taken into slavery and sold as slaves. So that's even on the maps. So you got to think about it. Is this the kingdom of Jews? Are these some white Jews on the west coast of Africa? No. Were these white Jews being sold as slaves? No. You can even look at slave records where they were keeping names. They even had Hebrew names, some of them. Now, how does that take place? Because they were Hebrews. And some of them, after being there, like I said earlier, converted forcibly or just to survive, dealt with other things, lost their religion. But it's not, you can even read Arab records where they're telling you, Arab travelers throughout Africa are telling you their accounts of running into black Jews. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter. Because it said, Moses said, listen, these curses shall be a sign. What's the sign of one being cursed? What's the sign of one being cursed? This is Deuteronomy 21 and verse 22. Deuteronomy 21 and verse 22. What does Moses write? When you ready to go here?
And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree.
That is rough, isn't it? He be to be put to death. I just saw that. I never read it. I was like, what did he stop for? Oh, he be to be. Yeah, that's right. Don't sound right. Okay. So it said, if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and now do what?
And now hang him on a tree.
And now hang him on a tree. Go ahead.
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree.
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree.
But thou shalt in any wise bury him that day.
Why?
For he that is hanged is accursed of God.
For he that is hanged is the accursed of God. The one that's hanged, that's showing the curse of God upon it. Just like our Messiah was hanged on the tree. He was crucified on the tree. And he took the curse that was supposed to be on us upon himself. So it is here when you look at this, the one that's hanged on the tree is the one that's cursed. You have to ask yourself the question, who's been hanging on all these trees? Even until this day, we have, because we've been cursed by our God. And you talk to people, and they can't understand the spiritual aspect of our problem, so they want to unite, and they want to come up with a plan, and they want to do this, and they want to do that. Negro, no, you can't do nothing except fix the relationship between you and your God. You got to turn back to God in spirit and in truth. You got to acknowledge your sin. You got to worship him. You got to serve him. You got to be obedient unto him. That's what we need to do as a people. Anything else will not work. We can't unite and do nothing else. We can't do nothing else. You done tried everything else. You got Negroes want to march. And again, I keep saying that word because that's a mindset. You want to march? Do you know they're not afraid of you marching? You got to get a permit. You got to be in the house at 10 o'clock. Didn't they have a curfew in Baltimore? Or Ferguson? They're not afraid of you marching. You want to vote? It's already rigged. And what Negroes don't understand, if you don't buy a politician, your vote don't mean nothing anyway. So you want to vote? You want to march? You want to pick up guns? Listen, that little 22, that 38 you got ain't doing nothing with these people who have mastered nuclear weaponry. You don't have enough. You can't talk about dealing with the government. You can't deal with the whites around here. They got arsenals in their house. After you shoot your 15 bullets, they say, you done? Okay. You can't do none of that. You're going to educate yourself out. Education, you're being miseducated the further and further you go in the educational system in this country because it was not built for you. It wasn't built for you. It was built for the white power structure. And even if you come up to the upper echelons, like I said, somebody did a documentary, they come from Harvard. Or you go to Yale. You are only educated to be better servants in a system that is perpetuated, that's built on white supremacy. The supremacy of the white power structure. You're only going to be a better servant. That's even if you become president. That's the irony. You could become president. You are only the face of American empire. That don't mean your people are free. That's not what freedom is, being a better servant. Freedom is based on sovereignty and land. If you don't have that, you don't have freedom. And one thing about education, education is supposed to teach you, when we talk about identity, it's supposed to teach you who you are. That's part of education. Even your name. I teach kids, one of the first things I ask them, day one, what's your name? They tell me their name. I said, what do you mean? They haven't a clue. That's part of your education. Yourself, knowing who you are. But when we think about who we are, we got our names. A lot of kids, their parents have made up names because they don't have an identity. They have made up names. No, I'm serious. But then the ones that do have names, where their name come from? Oh, it's an Arab name. You Muslim? No. Why you have an Arab? You Arab? No. Why you have an Arab name? Or they have some European name. And they're so proud. My name is Irish. Are you Irish? No. What you so proud for? Where that name come from? Then we get to the last name. You have an alien identity. In this search joint, they gave us an alien identity. That's why they changed the names. You see that with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They changed their names. Why? Because they are making you into somebody else. And we have been made into somebody else. That's what's happened to us. And we don't understand who we are at all. But let's go to Deuteronomy 32. See, we don't have an identity. Deuteronomy 32. And if you don't know who you are, again, somebody can tell you who you are. They can tell you that, like I said, you're a criminal. They can tell you that your IQ is lower. They can tell you that you are a savage. They can tell you that you are a criminal. If you really think about it, you got how people, some of the youngers in particular, happy about being a thug or a savage. That means you're uncivilized. True educated people don't act in that behavior, but we haven't been educated because we haven't actually taken over the education of our children because we don't want to make that sacrifice. 32 and 26. 32 and verse 26. We've lost our identity. When you're ready, go ahead.
I said I would scatter them in the corners.
The Lord said, I'm going to scatter them in the corners. What else?
I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
We read about how they wanted them to Israel to be cut off as a nation. The Lord said, here, I'm going to scatter them in the corners. I'm going to make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. That's why we don't know who we are. That's why the Negroes walking around talking about they Egyptian. Negroes talking about Kemet, and they are priests in this sect, some Commissions sect. What are you talking about? You're not from Egypt. They'll talk about you having a Bible, but let's take the Bible for a second. Let's set it here for 1 second. When was some Egyptians taken in the Bible? You're not Egyptian. You don't have that record, but we want to grasp at anything. Anything. We want to be Indian. They owned you too, Negro. The civilized tribes, the ones that these Europeans, see, they did a lot of that stuff to them too. They sent them to border schools. First thing they do, cut their hair, take their garb off, put them on some European clothes, and give them a European name and make them farmers. Not really teaching them how to read and write, but to indoctrinate them, to Europeanize the mind. The old civilized tribes, they own us too. Not all tribes. Some we intermingled in with totally, like the Seminoles in the South, in Florida. But these other tribes, everybody want to be Cherokee. They own slaves. My aunt was Cherokee, I bet. It's like you got white folks. They were slave owners. White folks own us too. The Indians own us too. You have no friends. But nevertheless, I will make them remember, Negroes want to be Irish. Negroes want to be Irish. Man, unto, but you want to be Irish. Shoot, if I thought that I was the one that God manifested myself unto, I wouldn't be thinking about nothing else. I don't want to be nothing else. I said I would scatter them in the corners. I would make them remember some of the cease from among men. Ain't no big deal about being Irish. I'm Italian, so what? God manifested himself unto one people. I don't care what you are. You better get with that program if you want salvation, wherever you come from. So let's go. I showed you this map. Let's show you the identity through the curses. Let's skip down. This is from a few years ago, but and this median net worth of households for whites has actually increased, but it's still about 20 times that of black folks. So you have to ask yourself, curse shall be thy basket and thy store. Now for the so-called Jew, it's higher than whites. When you look at the billionaires in this, first of all, they have a very small population. But when you look at, they have a large population when it comes to like Nobel Peace Prize winners, when it comes to banking institutions, when it comes to running Hollywood, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to even being a billionaire, being in the billionaires club. They occupy that place for that space. So in another curse, it said, our sons and our daughters shall be given unto another people. This is from slavery and the domestic slave trade in the United States. This is a slave trader. He's being interviewed, and the interviewer says, do you buy the wife without the husband? The slave trader says, yes, very often and frequently too. They sell me the mother while they keep the children. I have often known them take away the infant from its mother's breast and keep it while they sold her. This, you ask, who's the true savage? That's what happens when you sin against God and open yourself up to the savagery of other people. That's why David was saying, hey, don't let me fall into the hands of man. And when you look at that slavery, these so-called Jews, again, acted as middlemen. They owned the boats. They prospered during the slave trade. They weren't sold as slaves. They were doing the selling. Thou shalt betroth a wife. This is from A People's History of Florida. How Africans, Seminoles, women, the lower class whites shaped the sunshine state, page 312. It says, this is from the account of Sam Everett. So on this plantation were more than 100 slaves who were mated indiscriminately and without any regard for family union. See, they bred us like beasts. If their master thought that a certain man or woman might have a strong, healthy offspring, he forced them to have sexual relations, even though they were married to other slaves. If there seemed to be any slight reluctance on the part of either the unfortunate one, Big Jim, would make them consummate this relationship in his presence. He used the same procedure if he thought a certain couple was not producing children fast enough. He enjoyed these works very much and often entertained his friends in this manner. Quite often, he and his guests would engage in these debaucheries, choosing for themselves the prettiest of the young women. Sometimes they forced the unhappy husbands and lovers of their victims to look on. Can you imagine? That's a reason to hate. I'm going to be honest. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. You even see that in that movie, Birth of a Nation, where the man has, he's trying to play a political game. He has some of his friends over, or people he wants to make deals with. They see his service. They pick the one they're choosing. The man had just married a woman, and then he said, man, I'd rather die. But at the end of the day, that master came out. He said, man, I didn't call for this woman. What's taking so long? That woman went in there, was violated, came out. Now, how is she looking at her husband? She can't look at him with respect. This is what we subject ourselves to when we sin against God. Even Harriet Jacobs in her narrative from the slave girl, she talks about how she was hoping and wishing not to have a daughter because of this systematic sexual assault that was going on. You see somebody being jettisoned,
There's the Brooks slave diagram. These little black, you can't see it maybe from where you are, these look like dots from maybe where you are. Those are human beings packed in ships. I talked about the sign of those who are being cursed, being hanged on a tree. This is the sum of the lynching century from 1865 to 1965. More than 6,000 African Americans died of racial violence in the United States. Much of this was in lynching. This inventory included the names of 2,400 of the African Americans who were lynched in the United States from 1865 to 1965. The inventory is necessarily incomplete. Records are scant. Newspaper reports are scattered. The Tuskegee Institute lynching inventory began in 1882, just before the great surge of lynchings that occurred around the turn of the century. So when you look at Ida B. Wells, that's what she was doing. She was reporting on the lynching. Because what happened to her, she had some friends, some men, they had started a business and they were successful. And because they were successful, white people around them did what? They lynched them. So she was talking about this account, and they even stormed her office to try to kill her. She wasn't there at the time. She carried a pistol. You got to think about the strength of a woman doing something like that. This is something the Bible also tells you. Israel snared the holes and hid in prison houses. Who's in the jails? 1 in 4 of our men. At a time when they should be reproducing. When they should be having children. And what are they in there for? Non-violent drug offenses, economic crime, for the most part. It's just a fact. Again, you talk about who's blessed and who's cursed. This is from the new Jim Crow. Michelle Alexander, she says there are more African Americans under correctional control today in prison or in jail on probation or parole than were enslaved in 1850, decades before the Civil War. In 2004, there were more African American men disenfranchised due to felon disenfranchisement laws, meaning they wouldn't allow them to vote, than in 1870, the year the 15th Amendment was ratified. She says, if you take into account prisoners, a large majority of African American men in some urban areas like Chicago have been labeled felons for life. These men are part of a growing undercast, not class, a caste, a group of people who are permanently relegated by law to an inferior second-class status. They can be denied the right to vote, automatically excluded from juries, and legally discriminated against in employment, housing, access to education, and public benefits. So you put them in a position where they almost have to commit crime to survive. Much of their grandparents and great-grandparents once were during the Jim Crow era. So they've used prison to keep that system of Jim Crow going. We had stolen identity. Like I said, blacks, when you go to Nigeria here, amongst the Igbo, you go to Zimbabwe or South Africa, amongst the Limba, you have people who are claiming they are Israelites, remnants of these people. This is in the Jewish Almanac. It says, strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew, or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew, because they are not the people. Now this is from the Jewish Encyclopedia, their website, JewishEncyclopedia.com. It talks about the Kazars. Because when you read other works, you read the 13th tribe, you read Kazars and Kazari, there are a lot of different works. Even if you read the Outline of History by H.G. Wells, this is all over. They talk about Kazars being converted to Jews. Well, this is interesting. That says this Hasdai Ibn Shepherd, who was foreign minister to Abd-al-Rahman Hachman, Sultan of Cordoba, in his letter to King Joseph of the Kazars, about 960, because what the Kazars did, they had pressure from the Christians, they had pressure from the Muslims. What they did was they just converted to quote-unquote Judaism. Hasdai begs the king to communicate to him a detailed account of the geography of his country, of its internal constitution, of the customs and occupations of its inhabitants, and especially of the history of its ancestry and of the state. Now listen to this. In this letter, Hasdai speaks of the tradition according to which the Kazars once dwelt near the Seir Mountains. So how are they there? So that almost suggests that these are the same people. Now, I'm not saying it's the same people. What I am saying, though, is Edom, however you put it. Either it's a small group that is referred to, or they're amongst a large group, or are they intermingled together. You still dealing with Edom. And the Bible is telling you that he's going to deal with his people when he returns. This is Isaiah 63. See, because people will tell you, reading some works, they'll tell you that the Edomites are Romans. That's not true. That's not true at all. Some people say, well, they've gone from history, they don't exist. That's not true either, because prophecy is telling you. Prophecy is telling you that they're here. Let's see what the prophet said concerning Edom. This is Isaiah 63. We're going to find out what the Lord's going to do to these people. Isaiah 63 and verse 1. Isaiah 63 and verse 1. Are you ready? Go ahead.
Who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments on both rocks?
So I said, who is this that comes from Edom with dyed garments? Go ahead.
This that is glorious in his apparel, prevailing in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to say.
So this is the Messiah doing this, and these dyed garments are symbolic of bloodshed. Go ahead.
Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treaded in the wine vat. I trod at the wine press alone.
Go ahead.
And of the people there was none with me.
Go ahead.
For I would tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment.
See, so what is he doing? He's coming back in wrath. The Bible tells you he's coming back in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God and that obey not his gospel. The earth's going to be burned and few men left. So these grapes in the wine press, this is symbolic or figurative, and it's referring to people. And this is going to be over the whole world. Well, who does he mention in particular here? Edom. Edom. So Edom is still here. It says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine vat? I have tried the wine press alone, and of the people there was none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. I'm going to do some serious killing. Verse 4.
For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come.
So it's time for vengeance, verse 5.
And I looked, and there was none to help. And I wondered that there was none to hold.
Go ahead.
Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me.
So he said his fury upheld him, and what's he going to do?
And I will tread down the people in mine anger and make them drunk in my fury. And I will bring down their strength to the earth.
So he said, I will tread down the people in my anger and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Let's go to the last place. Let's go to Obadiah. Because here, even though this is one verse, one chapter, this book is telling you something specific about one group of people. This is Obadiah 1, and let's just read verse 1, if you don't mind.
The vision of Obadiah. Thus said the Lord God concerning Edom. We've heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her and bow. So
this is about what's going to happen to Edom. Let's just pick it up at verse Numbers. Let's just pick it up at verse 3. You ready? Go ahead.
The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks.
Go ahead.
Whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
So that's been your mindset as a people. Who's going to bring me down to the ground? I dwell among the clouds. I'm high. So that's the arrogant mindset. Verse 4.
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, then will I bring thee down, said the Lord. So
even though you exalt yourself, you are going to be debased. Verse 5.
If thieves come to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen until they had enough?
So if some came to steal when they steal until they had enough, go ahead.
If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes?
And see, what it's telling you is, it's for you, it's going to be total destruction. Verse 6.
How are the things of Esau searched out?
Uh-huh.
How are his hidden things sought up?
Go ahead.
All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the board.
Uh-huh.
The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee
Go ahead.
and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him.
So it says that all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So you've been deceived. It said, have prevailed against thee, that they eat thy bread and have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Verse 8.
Shall I not in that day, said the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau?
Go ahead.
And thy mighty man, O T-man, shall be dismayed to the end, that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter.
He says, I'm going to destroy you. Verse 10.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
We read about what they did to their brother. So it said, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Go ahead.
In the day that thou sittest on the other side.
What they do?
In the day that the strangers carried away captives, his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou was one of them.
So you one of the ones that went into that land. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that strangers carried away captive his forces, they took your brother. You were like one of them. You was one of them. See, God didn't forget. Go ahead.
But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
And you're going to pay for that. Go ahead.
Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity.
You see, I'm going to tell you what you shouldn't have did. You should not have gone into that land, into the gate of my people in the day of their destruction. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. That's one thing about God. He will use other people to punish you, and he'll punish those other people for the wrong that they do. Verse 14.
Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress.
Go ahead.
For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heaths.
So now he brings it all the way to the day of the Lord. So he's talking about what Edom should not have done. Their transgressions or their offenses against their brother. Then it says, for the day of the Lord is near upon who? All the nations. But you as well. So for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done. Go ahead.
As thou hast done, it should be done unto thee.
So just what you did, the same thing is going to be done unto you. Go ahead.
Thy reward shall return upon thine own head.
Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. You got to ask yourself, where they at? Where's Edom at? Go ahead, verse 16.
Whereas ye have drunk upon mine holy mountain.
So you drunk upon my holy mountain. The holy mountain is Zion. See, this is where Edom is. They in his land even right now. It said, for as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain. Go ahead.
So shall all the heathen drink continually. They shall drink and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they have not been. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possession.
Because there's going to come a time when he's going to deliver his people. It said, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance. And that's on Mount Zion where the law is going to go forth. Because the Lord's going to be there. It said, and there shall be holiness. The knowledge of God is going to cover this earth like the waters cover the sea, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. Israel's going to be regathered. They're going to be in a land, and they're going to be one nation once again under the true King of Kings. Go ahead, verse 18.
And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame.
But what about Esau?
And the house of Esau for stubble.
See, understand the context, what's happening here. It says, first of all, you drunk on my holy mountain, but you're going to be destroyed. And Israel's going to be put back on top. It said, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. Go ahead.
And they shall kindle in them and devour them. There should not be any remaining in the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it.
He talked about how you're going to be cut off. Oh, how about cut off? He said, see, you got to pay for what you did. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau. For the Lord has spoken. Nobody wants retribution. Nobody wants to pay. But you go pay. Verse 19.
And they of the south shall possess the mount of Esau.
Uh-huh.
And they of the plain, the Philistines.
Go ahead.
And they shall possess the fields of Ephraim. And the fields of Samaria. And Benjamin shall possess Gilead.
See, Israel's going to possess the land. Verse 20.
And the captivity of his host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even unto Zarephath. And the captivity of Jerusalem, which is Zedorad, shall possess the cities of the south.
Go ahead.
And Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau.
So it said, and Savior shall come up on Mount Zion after the Lord returns to judge who?
The mount of Esau.
Because that's where they're at. It said, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. So that's, I know the blasphemy of them would say they are Jews and are not. It's always my prayer that you will edify.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done,
Thy will be
on
done
earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread,
And forgive us our debt,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into
but
temptation,
deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
Thine is the kingdom,
Thine is the
and the
kingdom,
power,
and the
and the
power,
glory,
and the glory, forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
He is good.
He is good.
His mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
He is good.
He is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
These things we pray in Jesus' name.
These things we pray in Jesus'
The
name.
Holy One of Israel.
The Holy One of
The
Israel.
Mighty One of Jacob.
Mighty One of
The
Jacob.
Lord of Lords.
Lord of Lords.
King of Kings.
King of Kings.
Amen.
Amen. I don't know if anybody had a question.